Yeah, good afternoon, everyone, and especially to our special guest today, Mr. Awal Hidayat, who is actually our part. So he is a graduate of the mathematics department, the ICP as well. So I would say that he's quite familiar with what we have today, the ESM, English for Subject Matter of the instructional design. I'm not very sure if you have this kind of ESM as well, because it is quite new, the instructional design.
I kind of forgot if it is there. I don't think there is. I don't think.
All right. So Awal, let me also try to introduce the students we are with today. So they are from the class of 2020. So they are the semester 4 students. And I know that some of them already knew you, probably due to the stories of yeah, from me or from the other seniors maybe, and also the session you attended when you accompanied your supervisor. I would say is she your supervisor in the conference that Pascha conducted, or
No, she's my general lecturer, not my supervisor specifically.
Oh, okay. And then yeah, some also has shared to me in the beginning, even before they know you, that they've been dreaming UCL since they were at high school. So lucky you, those who dream the UCL, to have met one of its alumni here today. Okay. And also, dear students, let me also introduce you to reintroduce you to our special guest today, Mr. Awal Hidayat. As I said, he graduated from the ICP Mathematics, the class of 2012, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And then, yeah, he pursued his master's study, his master degree in the Institute of Education in the University College London, and then now he teaches in Sekolah Cikal, which is, I'm not very sure about. I was thinking if it is an international school, but then when I read more, I'm doubt if it is international or national plus school, or what kind of school it is. I think it is better for you later to also tell us about the school. I was also thinking if the school applied IB, but then as I read more, then I see if there is some signals of using Cambridge as well, and also national curriculum. So I'm not very sure. and I'm very curious to know more about it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is of course a great honor for us to have Awal here in our session, addressing the theme of integrating values into mathematics learning. While I'm expecting also this topic to be maybe quite general later, but let's see how we make it. And perhaps because this is an ESM, which is the place for the students to practice their English, then I expect that the session later will give also more opportunities for the students to practice their English. In the session, not only in the passive way in becoming the audiences, but also taking parts in the discussion session with Awal. All right. to not waste our time, I think I will give the chance to Mr. Awal uh, maybe you can reintroduce yourself and then give your first talk addressing the topic, please.
Okay, so thank you so much. First of all, I would like to extend my gratitude again to Husnul for giving me such a golden opportunity to go back home. I could say, I used to be a student. I used to be in the same position as you guys. So I attended ONM back in 2012 in International Class Program Mathematics Education. So yeah, we used to complain like, oh, we always have a session in the weekends while the other students don't need to do that. But yeah, it was something that we didn't really appreciate back then. But as I look back now, oh, that was a very great experience to have a balance between math and English in our program. So I'm also thankful for the program that we have back then. Graduated in UNM after 5.5 years. So I'm not like the kupu-kupu student who finished the study punctually based on the certain standards. But yeah, I made it to the UCL education, but we're gonna talk about it later. So let me just share my screen. But before that, I'd like to hear some responses for you guys. So perhaps if you could, can you please type in the chat box, type from 0 to 10, how are you doing today? 0 for not feeling, extremely not feeling okay. 10 for super duper great. So can you please just type between 0 to 10 in the chat box? Also, your nickname, if you could put it in the chat box as well. So I'm looking forward to see how are you doing today, guys.
I feel cold.
Mm-hmm. Oh, thank God. Okay, so as I scroll down in the chat box, most of you are at least above average. So thank you so much for joining our session, and I hope we all can learn one or two things today. So as the title of the topic that Kausun also provided, so I'd like to specify actually into integrating social justice values in math education. So this is kind of overrated perhaps for some people. Like if you have a Twitter account, then you can see that there are many social justice warriors. So we say SJW in Twitter or any social media. So I'd like to bring this kind of phenomenon into math classroom. So how can we embed social justice values in our math classroom, in the mathematics education? But before we go further on that, can you please just write in the chat box, like very short, what comes to your mind when we talk about mathematics education? Or if you wanna talk as well, then you can raise your hand and then just use your microphone. So maybe just 2 to 3 words, I guess. Oops, sorry. What comes to your mind when we talk about mathematics education? You can say numbers, you can say calculus, you can say stressful, you can say math anxiety, or anything. This is a safe space, so no judging. Anyway, council will not grade you for this. So
Sure.
okay, we say calculating, number, confused, count, logically, yes.
Biar supaya berbeda.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to wait for about 30 seconds more. You can type in anything you want to talk about when we talk about mathematics education? Okay, students' difficulty. Challenging, all right. So this is subjective, this is very subjective. So there is no right or wrong answer. There is no bad or good response. Everything is correct. So just try to write your own response on the question. Okay, so I think I can conclude two themes that we can infer from the responses. In one side, we can see the mathematical way, like the mathematical content, whether it is numbers, whether it is counting or calculating. And then on the other spectrum, we can see the attitude, whether mathematics is a challenging subject or difficult or confusing part. So thank you so much for that, which is very common that we often encounter when we talk about mathematics education. But now the next question is, do you have in mind how can mathematics be used as a tool to help pupils to understand the world and develop agency? So maybe this is one step more challenging than the first question, but you don't need to think too far. You just need to look back in your own practices, like, can you do that? Or like how can you do that in a very simple way?
No idea.
Any idea? Not yet? Still
Trying to figure out
what this topic is. Trying to figure it out. Okay. All right. So if you're still trying to figure it out, then that's fine. This is what our session for. So yeah. So today we are gonna examine the examples of case studies on critical mathematics education, which we are going to discuss more later on. And then we also gonna discuss about how my current classroom practices when integrating math projects and also sustainable development goals, which is also related to social justice. And the last part, if we still have time, then we could also discuss about how I pursued my master's degree and how I can survive the master's degree. So the very first part. So I wonder if you have heard about critical mathematics education. So please type in, have you heard about it? Or if you heard about it, what have you heard about it? And maybe you can make sense or make meaning of critical, and you combine critical and mathematics education. What do you think about it? Any idea? What comes to your mind when you heard the word critical? Is it a positive? Is it a negative? Or it can be positive or negative? Or yeah, things like that. Okay. Problem solving, very good. Yeah, you can think about critical thinking and combine critical thinking and mathematics education, because I think critical thinking is quite familiar. I mean, you're quite familiar with what critical thinking in math education. Any more response? That from problem solving? Okay. Okay, so if you're still wondering about it, then fine. So basically, why do I raise this question in the very first place? Because we, at least for me myself, when I was still you, so don't worry, because when I was still in your position, like in the second year of bachelor's degree in UNM, I also didn't really know about it at all. So And what we've learned are like historically mainstream mathematics education does not really have a tradition of critically examining the connection between mathematics as an area of study and also how it relates to the unjust or unequal economic or political or cultural powers in the society. So we've been trained, we've been taught for years, since our primary years, that mathematics is detached from the social realities in our surroundings. We only learn about numbers, we only learn about geometry, we only learn about calculus, etc., without really relating it with our real world context meaningfully, and how it can help us to build a better, to build a just, a more just or more equal society. We never really learn about it. So that's really normal if you think you're still wondering or you're still trying to figuring it out. Because that's what we've been spoon fed for years of our schooling, and this is something that quite striking for me when I learned mathematics in UCL. So I attended the lecture of understanding mathematics education there, and there is one session specifically talk about social justice and mathematics education. So how can we tackle the social injustice in the real world using mathematics. So basically like that. And it changed my mind. It really changed my mind 180 degrees, because little did I know that mathematics can be so political. So when I was a student in, let's say, primary school, or when I was still even in bachelor's degree, the only thing I can relate to mathematics is like our Asian parents believe that, oh, if you master mathematics, if you're good at mathematics, then you're a brilliant student, you're a bright student. That's it. But eventually, apparently, mathematics is not value free. It can transcend the intelligent part into the social powers. So there's a cruel example of mathematics can be very powerful or can be so political. So back then, in Nazi era, in Germany during the World War II, there is a common algebra examples. So basically, it can be the phrase is supposed to be like this. So how much poison gas is needed to kill certain amount of people? So there is an equation there. So mathematics. So based on this case, mathematics problem is actually not value free. We can infuse it with many value that the teacher or the policymaker with their powers into the classroom. So there is a hidden message in this problem, along with the practices of basic mathematics, like basic mathematics operations. So in this example, we can see that there are many. We actually, if you're a teacher or if you're the one in the educational field, we can incorporate our values in this way to make a more just society into the mathematics classroom. So from that moment on to today, I learned that mathematics are neither free of interpretation or value neutral. So we can incorporate, we can embed social justice issues in mathematics classroom practices. So this is what critical mathematics education is all about. So the critical theories accepts these ways of thinking about mathematics and its teaching, and they provide the pedagogies to assist learners to use mathematics to reach the democratic society. So yeah, so well actually it's not something that the mathematical or the mathematician or the mathematics education researcher never talk about. It's been discussed, it's been debated for these past few decades. So hopefully after the session also ends, we can also start to think about how we can apply the critical mathematics education in our practices later on. So far, if you have any questions, guys, please just feel free. You can raise your hand in the Zoom, or you can just type in the chat box. Okay, so I see from Jumadila, how students show their critical thinking in some cases, problems using mathematics, and how do students relate math material to everyday life. I would say that responding the question in the slide. So is it a question already? Okay, so
I think it's a response.
I think I'm gonna take. Yeah. So yeah, if you have any question, you can also type in the chat box while I'm discussing about it. So it's not only me talking, but I'm a not all knower person, so you can raise your hand if you wanna make a comment, or if you wanna challenge my argument. That's very common. So it's okay. So before we go further about how critical mathematics education looks like in real practices, let's also talk about the definition or the form of critical mathematics education, so that we know the how of critical mathematics education resembles. So the critical theory, it's actually not a new term. It's actually already been discussing for a few decades. I think it's from during the independence or the post-colonialism. The critical theory is uprising in every part of the disciplines. It's not only in education, it's also in many parts of discipline. It's in science, it's in social studies, humanities. Many scientists talk about how we can criticize or how can we apply the critical theory in our fields. So it's about liberating, enlightening, emancipating, and empowering. Now, if you see the bold statements there, so there is no hierarchy in that part. So there is no student, there is no teacher. So the student can liberate the teacher, and the teacher also vice versa can also liberate the students. So it's a two-way interaction, two-way relationship. It's a mutual relationship. It's not like one of the party is active and then oppressed and then try so hard to how to say, to force or to impose their knowledge to the students, but it's a mutual relationship between the teacher and also the students. So that's basically about critical mathematics in education, and it's to emancipate all of the parties. So when we specify it into mathematics, so mathematics produces a new inventions in reality, not only in the sense that new insights might change interpretation, but also in the sense that mathematics colonizes part of reality and the orders it. That's what I exemplified using the Nazi problem. So mathematics can colonize part of reality, but we can also try to reorder it if you want to make if you want to deal with the social injustice, then we can also make a difference on it. So that's basically it. So critical mathematics education, we can also say it as a way or a platform to challenge the status quo, like the taken for granted situation, but like it's already there, the situation is already like this, so we don't need to do about it. But if we want to use the critical mathematics education, it means that we want to be part of the change or the revolution or the more social part. So we can use mathematics to arrange or to challenge how our society is structured and to act from the choices that we discuss in mathematics. Now now maybe you are quite wondering, like, how can mathematics and social issues or social studies can put together in the practices? So any question before we go further? Am I clear enough?
Any questions?
Or am I too fast to explain? Is it still clear?
Yeah, of course. But then I myself have my own question, Awal. Can I? Okay.
Yeah, sure.
So how the critical mathematics education itself is different from the student-centered learning in general?
Right. That's a good question. So basically, critical mathematics education is strongly related to other perspectives in mathematics education, or even like the pedagogy itself. It's like if we talk about the diagram fan, it intersects into each other. So it's not only because of it's inside of the circle or the universe, but it touches to each other. So how it so aside from student center, it's also related to contextual teaching and learning. But what makes critical mathematics education really different from the others is the part where we put the real world context and we do something about it. We do something about it. So we choose the issue that we want to criticize or we want to challenge, and then we use mathematics to discuss about it, and we use mathematics for people to learn more about themselves and to make choices of the students, to make informed choices to the students so that they know what they should do in the society based on the mathematical concepts. So yeah, the principle of student-centered learning is applied in the critical mathematics education because the teacher is not the single entity who impose the knowledge to the students, but it's and since the very beginning, the student also tried to use the student situation. So it's not only in the instruction process, but it begins from the planning process that we see the student as a subject, not as an object. So we use the student as a context of the learning process, of the learning topic. So that's the relationship between student-centered approach in the learning. Okay, so you can also read this. So critical mathematics education should include reflecting not only for mathematics. It's not for mathematics, but it's through mathematics, it's with mathematics, and it's on mathematics. So it's a multifaceted, it's a multidimensional approach to connect mathematics in the critical theory or in the critical issues. So through mathematics, meaning we engage in a meaningful mathematics inquiries in which they pose their own questions and make their own decisions while interacting and communicating with others. With mathematics, meaning that we use mathematics as a means to develop their understanding of a range of social, cultural, economic, and political issues. And on mathematics, meaning that we consider its nature and privileged position and appreciate how mathematics can be used to make and justify decisions that affect their lives. So mathematics is an equal position, not only as a means or a vehicle to go that, but we use mathematics in every part of the critical mathematics education to engage in it, to develop our understanding in it, and also to consider and appreciate it, to use the mathematics understanding or mathematics concept to justify our decisions in our lives. So this is the example. This is an example from the case studies. So in Western world, there are ways mathematics can try to distort the realities using mathematical concepts. So I wonder, so there are two maps here, the first map and then the second map. I would say this one is the left map and this one is the right map. So I wonder which representation of the word are you most familiar? So Guys, can you please type in the chat box? Is it the left one or the right one that you are more familiar about? Is it the left?
I think you can make it larger. Can you make it larger? Because I see it is not like fully shared, fully. Okay. Yeah, it gets better.
Okay, right one. What about the others? Do you agree that that's the right one?
Okay, I wonder how did your analysis.
Right. All right. Okay, right. Okay, I think all of you agree, most of you agree that it's the right map. So yeah, that's the correct answer, like how the real representation of the word map. So this is the correct representation actually. But unfortunately, in many parts of the world, they use this Mercator map. This is some kind of map which is used in some states in the United States and also some parts in European countries. They use this map to distort many parts of. Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. Sorry. Actually, the correct representation is actually the last one. So you might surprise about it because this is not true. Yeah, so many Western world agree that this is the map that they believe is true, but the accurate representation, like the mathematical way to represent the Earth into two-dimensional is this one. So as you can see, the Africa proportion here is so much larger than the Africa representation in here, while in here, the Africa representation is actually as large as the Greenland. So it also perpetuates, or it also makes the racial justice worse in some Western world towards the Black people or the people of color, because they try to shrink the size of the Africa or the regions that they don't really see as they don't really see as a reality, if I could say like that. So here, the mathematicians choose to distort either the angles or also the proportion between distances. And that's what we instill in our mind. That's what we believe in our mind, that, oh, this is the real representation of the world. But in fact, Africa is actually very much larger than what we can imagine. So that's the example. And one of the researcher try to elaborate this in their classroom when they talk about angles, when they talk about the measurement in the classroom, and then they reflect on it. They reflect how the map can make the racial injustice even worse. So this is one of the example of using math into social justice discussion in the classroom. Okay, so that's one example. We have another example. This is another example from Britain, I think. Yeah. So the lesson is about to calculate compound interest from different loans. So they try to find out how much money they need to repay when they take loan from different companies, and obviously you will use math for this. You need to use the percentage and also the money counting to answer the question. And this is a great example. As you can see here, they answered the question which is the best one and which is the worst one. But if the teacher does not stop in that question only, but they try to reflect on it. So they try to elaborate when the lesson can also give the pupils a tool, so you can see, to start thinking about the benefits of saving versus the problems of credit. Because like, yes, we can take the loan and then we can get the money, we can earn money in a short amount of time, but as you can see, you will need to pay a lot compared to you save your money by yourself. So this is something also quite striking for me, because like many people say that mathematics is so detached from our, but actually we can use mathematics in our real life situation just like this, and making it more meaningful than just like this discussion. So we discuss about social justice issues in that. Oh, and here they also chose this topic because the student in the school is coming from the low socio-economic background, when they are trapped in the loan, or yeah, they are trapped by the loan, so they cannot escape from the cycle of poverty. So this is a great start also to discuss about social justice in mathematics classroom. Okay, so this is a great tips if you try to think of how to create your own lesson. So the first thing you need to do is to learn about the relevant social justice. There are many social issues in our real life. It's a never-ending issue. You can talk about bullying, you can talk about the environmental injustice, you can talk about the racism. Even in Indonesia, we also still have racism. We can talk about, you can also try to provide your own social justice in the chat box, so we can talk about it later. And then we need to identify the mathematics. Oops, sorry. And then after that, we establish our goals, what we are going to achieve, and how we can assess the goals. And then this is a critical part as well. We need to create a social justice questions. So it can be a good prompt to discuss about social justice using mathematics concept. And then we design the student resources for the investigation. And the last part is the plan for reflection and action. This is actually not necessarily the end of the steps. As you can see, this is a reflection. So it's supposed to be a cycle here. So after we reflect, and then we go back to learn about relevant social justice and make it better. So it's a cycle that we repeat over and over again. It's not like a timeline or chronological order, but it's a cycle or cyclical phase. So that's actually the introduction about critical mathematics education, or how to teach math in how to teach social justice using math. So let's move. Before we move on to the next part, we can also discuss if you have any question, if you're still unsure about critical mathematics education so far. Any question?
Any questions for Awal? Oh, Jumadila raised her hand.
I think Jumadila.
Okay, thank you for the opportunities that given to me. I'm interested by true mathematics that have been explained before. So true mathematics, it means we use mathematics to interact and communicate to each other And it reminds me of the statement that mathematics is basically a language. And this is also related to what has been discussed, that mathematics is a tool, because I think language is also a tool, right? Um, a tool for us to communicate to each other. So um, actually, I want to know, what do you think about that by your side, or do you think it's actually something different between mathematics as a tool and mathematics as a language? That's it. Thank you.
Right. Yeah. Thank you so much. How do I address you? Sorry.
Uh, just you must.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. So thank you so much for the question, Juma. Yeah. I also heard about mathematics as a language, which is very true, because like everything in the world, we can actually communicate it using mathematical concepts, like how the fractalities. Perhaps I believe that most of you are already familiar with fractalities, which is very common in our universe. So mathematics is a language, and when we talk about language, it's not only about the communicative part, but language can also have the political power. So language is not a political. Language is very political. You can see in the dictionary, like the people in power who make the dictionary, they impose their own understanding for how the social realities or the social constructs, the phenomenon, and transfer it into dictionary. And that's where the language can be so powerful in terms of the political. So in that case, mathematics as a language and mathematics as a tool to make a just society or to make a better world is aligned to each other, because we need to use it as a tool and as a language to communicate the social justice in our society. So I believe mathematics as a language can be part of the solution to also communicate the social justice in our reality. So yeah, thank you so much for that insights, Juno.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Anyone else would like to address question or?
Okay, should we move to the next part?
I think.
Okay, so how does my current practice reflect on critical mathematics education? So in this session, I would like to present 3 of my practices in Scholastica. And yeah, I think this is also the part where I could talk about how Scholastica looks like. So before that, this is actually the dimensions of CICAL 5 competencies. So CICAL is not an international school, I could say, but I hate labels actually, but we can say CICAL is a national class school, because we have some kind of programs different from other national schools, and this is one of the things that makes CICAL different from the other schools. So we have 14 dimensions. It's kind of similar to competency in how do I say, in curriculum pemerintah, in the governmental curriculum, the written curriculum. So we have committed, self-reliant, reflective, principled, cooperative, balanced, intelligent, communicative, innovative, and so on and so forth. Those are the dimensions that we try to incorporate in our teaching and learning. So in math, usually it's about intelligent and communicative dimensions. So we try to use the intelligent and communicative dimensions to learn math in our classroom. Well, sometimes we also can have the reflective part in the math. And what makes it even more interesting because math sometimes, more often than not, math is combined with the other subjects when they assess the students, when we assess the students. Oh yeah, so yeah. So this is one of the examples. So this is, I think it's in year 4, yeah, grade 4 in primary school. So we integrate math in sustainable development goals. In this part, it's SDG 13 about climate action assessment, about climate action and how math and science can collaborate to contribute on this cause. So here we talk about science, like how the climate, not necessarily climate change, but like how the global warming in a superficial level, because like they're still too young to understand about the chemical factors and many complicated science factors. So it's only the basic parts that they talk about the CO2. So this is the question actually. This is the graph. So students collected the data within the community context to find out the CO2 emissions from the household activities and their surroundings. So they collected the data. The students collected the data. They can use the transportation that they use. They can also choose to investigate the food intake that they consume on a daily basis. They can also use what again? The electricity use in their own household, and then they try to compare using the statistic variables. So they, in this case, the student focus on the food and how it contributes to the global warming. So they ask their parents, they ask their neighbors, like what kind of food that they eat on a daily basis, like regularly, and then they convert the food with the carbon emission for each food. So they use the math there. It's like they need to find out the food, and then they need to multiply the food with the portion of the food with the carbon intake from each type of food. And then yeah, they use the basic mathematics operations in this part. And then the result is like this poster displaying the result of their data collection, and also the science part about how to encourage people on saving the earth. So this is actually one of the ways we can use math in our SDG. Now, if you're wondering why SDG is important and relate to social justice, this is something that we also try to, how do I say, something that we try to instill or try to encourage our students to get informed that social justice can also impact the environmental justice. Because like when you, yeah, when we talk about the climate change, it's actually not only a science problem, but it's also a social problem, because like many people in the marginalized groups, they affect a lot from the climate change, like people in the coastal areas, which is commonly people who are not really privileged or people in need compared to the people in suburban or in the big cities. So this is something that we discuss about with our students in the classroom as well. I will just make it faster because of the time. The next one is about, this is something that we just did recently. So when Kak Husno said that you're curious about the system or the curriculum that Cikal applied. It's actually a mix and match between many curriculums, but mostly it's about IB curriculum. And that's why we have the culminating project, which is some kind of thesis for bachelors, but it's in a real action. So they have the culminating project for year 6, year 9, and year 12 to reflect on their learning journey in that level of school. So here we use the transdisciplinary system where we incorporate math, science, social studies, and many subjects in one project. And this is something about SDG 2, Zero Hunger. So my students focusing on how to help, how to deal with plastic pollution in the food packaging. So they try to collect the data to find out the preferred plastic alternative for food packaging. So they use the mode concept on doing their projects, and obviously because their project is also about the fundraising, they also use the money concept in math to find out the result of their fundraising, and also to plan their fundraising project, like how much the price for their food that they want to sell in the project so that they can achieve their target, etc. So this is also when we talk about the injustice in the classroom. The last part that I want to share is about integrating math in SDG 14 about life below water. So this is actually not really related to math, but we, as I said before, we can embed the social justice values or any SDGs value into the math classroom. So this is for year 5. So we have from year 4, 6, and 5 now. It's about coordinate points and type of lines. So there's actually a backstory of this, like they are role playing as an environmentalist or environmental ranger to find out what kind of species that we are talking about, which are endangered because of the human activities, and they use math concept to investigate and so it's kind of a gamification in learning as well, so that the students can be more interactive or engaged in the session. So they plotted the dots based on the coordinate points that we gave, and then connect the dots based on the line, the dots that we also provided. And then they find out that, oh, it's a fish. And after they find out the fish, then we discuss about, okay, so what happened to the fish now in the ocean, and how can we help to conserve or to preserve the ocean or the aquatic ecosystem in general. So we encourage a lot to incorporate the multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary even in our classroom. So we couldn't separate math from the other disciplines, and also from the other discipline also try to relate to math. So that's how it looks like here, if you may wonder about it. And this is also part of social justice, because like many people don't think that the action that they take can do such an injustice to the other species, like fish or any endangered species like the others. So this is why we also try to make the learning more meaningful in this case. So that's basically my current one of the and a few examples of how we can incorporate the social justice issues in our math classroom. So yeah, I think before we go further into the Q&A session specifically, maybe some of you can give me 2 ideas that we can embed social justice issues in the math classroom. So what do you think? Like any social justice issues that relates to you, or quite contextual in our community in Makassar or in South Sulawesi in general, or even in Indonesia. So do you have any idea for that?
Okay, interesting. So this is a challenge on how you see math is around you. Can anyone please give idea on?
So you can try to find out what kind of social justice that disturbs you the most, or social injustice or social issues in general that the thing is very detrimental or very harmful to our society. I think there are a lot of discussions lately, like never-ending issues that we have in Indonesia, like every day
Minyak goreng.
another minyak goreng. Yeah, you can try that as well. Still
Any ideas? Oh, Lulu raised her hand. Oh,
Okay.
well, we actually have also two special guests here, Mr. Awal. So this is Lulu, you know, I think.
Lulu, is it Lulu? Lulu? Wait,
Halo kawan, Mr. Awal.
so embarrassed. How dare you?
Wow.
Halo Lulu.
You really want to say something, Lulu? Or you ask question to Awal, or you give an answer to Awal's questions?
Okay. One of my ideas for social justice issues is climate action actually, and also for health issue in my pupils especially, because I'm a teacher in a school in a village, in a small village, with the students already normalize the smoking activities around them, and they are just in the 7th grade students, and it is really painful to see them normalize smoke behind the classroom. And also, as a teacher, I don't actually know how to solve this problem, because they actually work after school and they think that smoke is the way to relax their feelings from working, you know, like it becomes habits for them. Okay, maybe in math we can correlate between how many tiap batang rokok ini mempengaruhi paru-paru setiap isapan rokoknya. Jadi, for example, how many actually cigarettes in dalam satu bungkus rokok berapa? 12, 20?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
I don't know. Yeah, actually we don't know. And how many nicotine and tar dalam satu batang itu, kemudian kita bisa memberikan perbandingan dalam materi perbandingan senilai misalnya. Jadi berapa banyak rokok, kemudian bagaimana efek, seberapa besar efek yang dipengaruhi. Jadi semakin banyak rokok yang dia isap misalnya, maka efek yang dipengaruhi juga akan semakin besar di paru-paru mereka. Especially because they are just a young age, 12 tahun, 13 tahun. Okay. How about it?
Yeah, that's a good example of how we can relate math in our social issues surrounding in our surrounding. Yeah, in ratio topic, that can be one of the examples. Another, yeah, I really like how you try to also convince your student unconsciously, not like or indirectly in that way. But one thing that we also need to consider when we talk about like the preteens or they're in adolescence already is about persuasive ways. So it's not only math as a single tool, but we can also collaborate with other teachers or all of other school personnel. Like, yeah, this is something really maybe not really relevant to people to the school in the village, as you said before. Because like, yeah, we all know that teachers is already burdening so hard with many administrative stuff. But if we can collaborate more on it, then I think it will be more successful. But that's a good start. That's a good start if you could try to incorporate that in your lesson. Another way we can also incorporate that they can try to make it more personal to them. So perhaps they can go to the local healthcare unit and then they try to conduct a survey with the doctors or the medical officers there, and then make their own find their own data, like the people who suffer from the diseases related to the smoking, and then how many people are smoking there and how many people are not smoking are suffering from the diseases, and then that's how we can see the real cases of the impact of the smoking activities in our health. Yeah, that's what I could say. Thank you so much, Lulu, for your idea.
Thank you, Kawal.
This is shocking. Yes. I'm not expecting you. I'm not. I was not expecting you to talk actually, Lulu, but then you talk. Then okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kausnur.
Yeah. I see that Juma.
Juma.
Yeah. Raise her hand, please.
Yeah, actually, I want to give my idea about the question. So I think it's interesting to carry out the topic of like the graph. That's a graph that shows the percentage of the type of intelligence of students in the class. So each student can needs to collect data on the preference of his friends, and then determine which friends are on the type of the intelligence. So students can also gain insight that everyone has a different intelligence and will appreciate it more from the percentage, the various percentage. I think that's it. Thank you.
Sorry. Can you say it again? I didn't really catch the math concept.
So the concept is like just make a graph of the percentage of the type of intelligence. So there's we know that the type of intelligence is there's a lot, yeah, and as students just like collect a data from his friends, what's actually there, maybe for the simple one is like what they hobby, and then determine to the type of intelligence. So from the data, they can make like a graph of the percentage. That's it.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much, Juma. That's also an interesting topic. It's like something that we kind of overlook. Sorry. Something that we kind of we tend to underestimate people because of we only see the intelligence from one perspective. Like, sorry, I have a call. Can you please spare me a few minutes?
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, that's a great topic you provide, Juma, because like in our society, sometimes we underestimate um, people who are not good at like mathematical or maybe like in science, perhaps natural science domain, and that's really that really gives a hazardous effect, I could say, because people will tend to see themselves as a failed person. They will have their in their mind that, oh, I'm not worth enough. Their self-worth or their self-efficacy will be very very low because of other people's perception on that. So this is a very great introduction on how we can appreciate our own intelligence based on the multiple intelligences that we can appreciate. And yeah, there's every people is intelligent in their own way. That's the conclusion that we can wrap up in the end of the topic. So yeah, I do agree that we can use that to learn about how to convert the data or the numerical data or the number into a percentage and to represent the data into the graph. So that's a great choice. And also the graph, we can also try to elaborate more on the graph, because like graph is a very how do I say, it can be very, it can show a bias in graph. If you use the pie chart and if you use the bar chart, you can see, for example, let's say, if you use the pie chart and then you present the data between two groups like boys and girls in the pie chart, and then we separate the pie chart into different parts in the pie, and we also separate the pie chart for the boys and for the girls, and we see, oh, we can conclude that the boy is smarter in math than the girls, while in fact it's not only about how many students, but it's also the percentage or the representation of the students compared to when you use the bar chart. Bar chart, it can be so obvious that you can see, oh, the total of the numbers is like this, and then the total of the students who are good at math for the girls is this amount of number. So we need to be careful when we see or we want to choose the type of graph, because we can distort the reality using different type of graphs. So we need to be more cautious on that part. And now we can make it we can bring it into the discussion as well, so that the students can see that when they see the data, they can reflect that, oh, we need to be more critical on the data representation instead of just read the graph and that's it.
Yeah. Anyway, well, can I also have my question? Yeah, I think in response to the examples by Lulu and Jumadila just now, I was wondering how you manage the how you manage this kind of activity in your school. I mean, would the case be like we tell the students which topic, or we already set, we target which topic that we want the students to work with or to involve in their investigations in their project, or they simply like work with certain projects and think themselves which math that they could involve to deal with this kind of issue, or even where the issue actually comes from. I mean, is it from the teacher, you provide them with that issue, or they can they raise their own issues. Yeah, I think that's my question.
Okay. Yeah, so when it comes to deciding the topic that they want to focus on, it actually very depends on the situation or the time and place context. Like in some topics, we have a flexible time, so we have the belief that the students can also do their own action. So for example, like this one, let me go back. For example, in this part, let me try to, okay, so for this part, actually, because this is a very tight, I was still in the very first weeks here, so I need to adjust and adapt and many things to think about. So I didn't really spare my time to give a personalization to the students. So I will just give, I just give this worksheet to the students to work on it. So it's a single worksheet for the students, so they don't have voice to choose for this part. But in other practices, and most of the practices, we try to develop the students' agency where they take their own ownership to choose the project. Like in this example, so we gave the students, because it's a 6-month period of project, so we gave the students the freedom to choose what SDG they are relate the most to, and this is the student who really cares about the plastic pollution and the food insecurity and also the hunger issues in Indonesia and globally. So they chose this own project by themselves, and me as a facilitator at the moment just try to facilitate, or perhaps what do you think about this? What do you think about this? And then doing the survey, we try to collaborate together. But most of it, the students chose their own issue by themselves in this project. And for this one is actually a mix and match. It's a combination between the teacher give the suggestions or give the ideas, and then the students chooses their own issues. Because in here, we provided a few cases, like we provided the food issues, the electricity, and then the means of transportation, which one they want to choose. It's free, it's up to them which one that they want to focus on. And then they take the ownership by choosing between the 3 ideas. And I think this is because they are still in year 4. So we still need to give them scaffolding or a stimulation or ideas, and then they will do it by themselves according to the personal interest. So it's actually based on the context. So we can use any type of choices, but we do encourage to give the students the freedom to choose their own topic, or to say the least, we chose the topics. We created the topic based on our observation or based on our communication with the students. So it's more of the informal discussion before we give the topics, and then after we learn the students' needs, and then we try to cater their needs based on the discussions that we had before. So that's basic. So we as a teacher are recommended to give the students the ownership or their own voices on choosing the topic that we want to focus on. Because what makes it not meaningful for the students, even though we for example, like this, we need to talk, we want to talk about, let's say, how do I put this? Something that is not contextual in Indonesia, but contextual in the Western world, like the gun control. The gun control perhaps it's too detached or too far from our own reality in Indonesia, and we want to discuss about gun control. Perhaps it can be valuable so that we remain not we remain control the gun in Indonesia, but perhaps it will take longer time for the students to make sense of the problem or make sense of the context. So we need to make it as contextual as possible on our students' needs. So that's what I could say.
Okay, very interesting. Oh, another student raised her hand. Faiza.
Yeah, okay, thank you the opportunity that given to me. So actually, I don't want to share my ideas, but I want to ask to Mr. Awal, which is my question is related with Sir Husnul. So based on your explanation in project assessment, I just curious, while you are teaching, have you ever feel not familiar or maybe you have struggle or obstacle with implemented project assessment to your student? Because if we look in national curriculum, that which is emancipated curriculum is also implemented project activity, but in the reality there are still many teachers who are not familiar with the project activity. So that's it.
Okay, is that it? Okay. So yeah, so I do agree that the teacher must struggle a lot when they want to incorporate the project-based assessment, especially when the project want to relate to the social issues happening around them. So that's basically what the new curriculum that will begin in the near future. So for me personally, I didn't really have struggle that much because like in Chicago we don't have the how do I say, like the task, like the semester task or the term task, because like all of the assessment is based on the project. So we only give the final project and then we assess the students based on that, and also the individual works in every week on a weekly basis. So we don't really assess the task. We don't really value the testing based system or the high stake testing system. Instead of we only focus on the project based. What makes it maybe could be challenge for the teacher, because like we are not used to that kind of system. 4 years since the very first of our Indonesian education system, we adopt the Western education system where we use the task to assess the students, and we need to change in almost overnight to the project based. And the thing is, for the soon newly implemented curriculum, it's not an overnight transition. It's going to be in a slowly but surely transition from like the leading school or leading teacher, or I don't know what's the proper English term for sekolah penggerak dan guru penggerak. They are the one who were trained based on their own how do I say, like their own initiative. So it's not something that they are forced to do, but it's something that they are passionate about, and that's what makes it can be self-autonomous instead of being pressured to do so. The struggle can be that one, the adaptation part, and then the other struggle could be in the student perspective, because like student will be perhaps could be reluctant at first, because like it will take longer time than the testing based system, because it's only one day. It's not even one day, because like you only do the math test, let's say, for about 30 to 1 hour, 30 minutes to 1 hour. But when you do the project test, you need to do it like in a longer time, in a longer period of time, like maybe a week or even longer than that. So perhaps there might be a resistance from the students as well because of it. So what we need to emphasize, what we need to highlight, what can we do about it is here, in order to support teachers, we need more curriculum materials that do not treat teachers as robots to mindlessly implement pedagogy. So this is what the curriculum designers, I believe, kind of develop today. They kind of develop the curriculum Merdeka, make it more as flexible as possible, as how do I say it? As not rigid as possible, as not as easy, but as, how do I put this? They try to make the curriculum Merdeka like no KKM at all. So it will create the flexibility for the teachers to try to implement the curriculum based on their own needs. So in that way, I think project-based assessment can be very much meaningful for the students and the teachers as well. And yeah, one thing I also heard about curriculum Merdeka, that project-based assessment is not a single, it's not gonna be a single project for each student, but it can be like a multidisciplinary project. So you can integrate math and science, as I shown before, or you can integrate math and English, or math and or like chemistry or biology into the same project. So I think it can also be a strength or an advantage for, so the teacher can be more flexible to cooperate and collaborate to the other subjects. So they can share their burden to each other, if that makes sense. So yeah, the struggle, it's going to be there. The struggle is real, but the question is whether we want to struggle to achieve a better result, because research has it that it really promotes the students' agency. It also creates the learning more meaningful, and hopefully after that the students' learning outcome can also be improved on that. The research is still limited on that part, but if we could do that, then we can try to see the evidence of it. Compared to if we only stay in this state, in this condition, we're not going anywhere, and yeah, we just go with the flow and do nothing about it, and our learning maybe will not be as meaningful as the project-based assessment. So that's my take on it. So the question is whether we want to struggle to achieve something, or we don't want to struggle but we achieve nothing. So that's something that we need to reflect on when all of us want to pursue the teaching career path. Thank you so much for the questions.
Okay.
Do you have any further response on it?
Faiza?
Okay, I think that it's really clear from your explanation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I think we can give more time to Awal to complete or to finish his slide presentation. I think there are still 6 slides remaining. We wonder.
Oh, yeah, it's basically more informal. It's not really related to our topic, so let's just skim. It's actually only a, oh yeah, so let me conclude this part first. So yeah, mathematics can serve as a powerful means for developing students' understanding of issues of social justice. And yeah, as I said before, students can develop the understanding of both social justice issues and also mathematical concepts when there is a meaningful link between the two parts. So we can also make mathematics more meaningful and more relevant to the students' real life experiences, and it can raise the level of engagement of the students because we talk about them, we talk about their situations in our classroom. It's not only about mathematics and the numbers and stuff, but we also talk about how mathematics can benefit their life, and that's something that we kind of lose in our classroom practices. So another thing is about student agency. So it has found that student agency can be developed by adopting this kind of problem solving approaches to teaching, because it encourages students to choose the issues that we need to explore, and what kind of mathematical procedures that we need to apply in discussing those kind of issues or this kind of topic. So and then the last part is, this is something that we need to always, how do I put this? Like, we need to always advocate to the policymakers if we have the chance, if we have the opportunity. It's not only policymaker, we can also try to advocate this in our own school, to our principal, to our colleagues, so that we can have the curriculum materials that do not treat us as robots, but treat us as a human, to serve as a human and make a meaningful human relationship in the classroom. Yeah, so that's it. So the next slide is actually about my journey in UCL. So I took 4 courses. They are Practice Education, Understanding Research. Those are the compulsory courses that I took, because my major is not actually mathematics education. So my major is in curriculum, pedagogy, and assessment. And I think I couldn't run away from math. So I took again 2 elective courses from math education program. So I took in Understanding Math Education and also Mathematics for Teachers for another courses. And the last bit is the dissertation. So yeah, we only have 4 courseworks and then 1 dissertation. So we only focus on that part. We don't learn a lot of things. We just focus on the essential parts in our study. And yeah, I think it's there has been a lot of progress in UNM, I guess, like what Kausnul already been doing. Like the type of assessment, it's already great, excellent. I could say the assessment is not about the task-based system, but we make a piece of paper like 5,000 words, sort of, which about the issues that relates to our education. So I made a piece of paper about climate change education in Indonesia. Here I make about, in Understanding Research, I compare 2 papers about mindfulness practices in the school. And then in Understanding Math Education, I made a paper about the required teacher knowledge on shifting kind of shifting students' belief in learning math. So it's kind of like attitude towards math. So what kind of pedagogical, psychological teacher knowledge that we need to require as a teacher. So that's about it. In Mathematics for Teacher, I made a piece of paper reflecting on how I appreciate the beauty of math when solving the mathematical problems. So yeah, things like that. And then in dissertation, I completed the dissertation entitled Math Teacher Perspective on Supporting Students' Mental Health in Primary School in Indonesia. And during my study, I also joined a few student clubs. One of them is UCL Beginners Club, where we discuss about issues in education again on a bi-weekly basis. And also I did a summer internship in one of the departments in IOE as a web designer for welcoming students in the next intake year. So that's basically what I did during my journey. So this is my supervisor, and this is my feedback that I got from her. I yeah, so one thing that I also most grateful learning in UCL is like the supervisor is very supportive. They gave us the well, actually it depends on the supervisor that you have, that you are being assigned to. But I'm thankful for my supervisor because she gave me a very detailed comments on my works, and also she was very supportive, not only academically but also socially and mentally. So there was one moment I was suffered from COVID in London, and she gave me an extension for my assignment. So that's one thing. Yeah, that's one thing I'm so grateful, because like they are so familiar with mental health issues, so they are so flexible. When you have an issue, then you can just reach out to them, and then okay, you should do this. You can extend your assignment deadline, and they will give you some steps to reach out to the person in charge on your own issues. So that's something that I'm also very grateful to study in IOE UCL. Yeah, this is another study life balance. Museum in London was so gigantic. I love strolling down the city and just going to the museum or another museum. Also, the food in London was so scrumptious, so delightful. You wanna, because London is a melting pot of the world. You can see many people from different parts of the world. In London, especially, you have 4 restaurants, Indonesian restaurants, so you don't need to worry if you craving for rice or rendang. And as I'm personally also a vegetarian, so London is like one of the fastest growing lifestyle when it comes to vegetarian or vegan lifestyle. So I never lost, or whenever I go to the restaurant, then I can always find my food there. So yeah, I'm safe there. Yeah, I think that's it. I think it concludes my presentation. So it is impossible to teach without the courage of love, without the courage to try 1,000 times before giving up. So it relates again to Pirsa, is it Pirsa? About whether we should give up on the struggle or we need to be more resilient on our own struggle. So we need to teach with love. And yeah, I also want to say that to teach is not only to transfer the knowledge that we have. It's not only about to make our students more intelligent. It's actually to make students to challenge the social realities, to make to make a better place for every one of us. So that's actually, for me personally, the main part of being a teacher. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you all. And now I see a student or 2 students and raise their hand. So maybe 3 students. So I think maybe because this is what we used to have, like having question and answers after the presentation is done. So I think if you don't mind, we can give the opportunity for these students to say their questions, to address their questions. Would be fine.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Yeah, please, Winnie. You can ask your question.
Thank you, sir, for the opportunity that give to me. Hello, Kak. But let me first ask, like, how should we call you?
Mr. Timothy.
because like maybe when we call you, sir, maybe it's like or anything.
Oh, yeah, this is the funny part actually. So in many countries, like you don't give labels to your teacher like Kak, Pa, or any labels like Ibu, Miss. You just call them by their first name or last name, depending on their countries. So yeah, I think you can just call me directly Awal. It's like it will reduce the gap between us, like the power inequalities between us. Like people kind of are afraid, or how do I say, segan, when you put A or K to my name. So
Is this a kind of
can
social
describe
social issue we can raise?
yeah.
Okay. Okay,
So
but
call me
it's
Awal.
not,
Call me by name. Call me by name.
but
Okay,
it's
now
not comfortable to
this-
call you by your
try
name.
it with it. Try
Yeah,
try with it.
try it.
Try call him Awal.
Awal.
Yeah, yeah, I'm here. It's a different sensation, right? You don't have the how do I say, like the fear of being inferior when you call me directly by my name. Because like we are
Okay.
equal.
Okay. But let me give you my questions. Like we know, how can the integrations allow students to see the usefulness and importance of mathematics, which is therefore enables them to develop new understandings and their skills? That is my
Again?
questions. Thank you.
Can you repeat? Say it again.
How the integration can allow students to see the usefulness and importance of mathematics, which is therefore enables them to develop new understandings and skills.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, as the practices or the cases that I showed before, it allows students to apply the mathematical understanding, right? But when we talk about how we can make them learn new knowledge or new understanding, we can also do the same thing. So when we use the what kind of approaches again? I kind of forgot what's the name. So when we talk about the inquiry based learning, right? The inquiry based learning, it started with the real cases. It started with the real issues that happening around us. So when we talk about, let's say, how do I say, like probability, let's say, when we want to talk about probability, we need to talk about, for example, the probability of endangered species, for example, like whether orangutan will still survive in the next coming years. We can use that cases to learn about it. So we gave the issues, and then we gave the students to think about it using the mathematical concept. So when we use the inquiry-based learning, then it means that we gave them the stimulation, what probability is or how probability looks like, and relate them to the real cases. So in that way, we learn two things. We learn about the social issues happening around us. We also learn about the mathematical, new mathematical concepts on that. And that makes mathematics more meaningful again, because the students know by themselves without being explained too much by the teacher. So they expose themselves first. They can use many resources by themselves. They can discuss with their friends. They can discuss with their families, and they know mathematics in that ways. So yeah, we can apply this context in many stages of learning. In the beginning, in the pre-learning, in the process of learning itself, and even the post-learning. So after we learn mathematics, I guess, we can try to reflect. We can make a reflection to the students of how can you use this in a real life situations. So that's where the post learning process occurs. So, but for me personally, we just need to how do I put this? To see the context, to see the needs of our students. In which stage do we need to do this? So if you think that the student can participate in an inquiry based learning, then you can give them the cases in the very first place. But if you think that, I think you should give some scaffolding or some explanation before you give the real cases, then you can also do so. So it really depends. So yeah, there are many activities we could use that on embedding the social issues in our math classroom. What again? Yeah, I think that's it for me for now.
Yeah. Oh well. What I get actually from Winnie's question was like how can the students see that there is a mathematics in that integrative activity? Is it, yeah. Or
is that it?
I'm not very sure, but let's just confirm to Winnie.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's very obvious. Like when you talk about this is something that happens in inquiry-based learning, because like students sometimes unconscious that they are doing mathematics, but in fact they're doing mathematics. In the integrative part, we can stimulate the students that this is a mathematics concept. That's one thing. If the students did not realize, sometimes in my own experiences, the students directly realizes that, oh, this is math. Like yesterday, the students play a game about something like truth or dare, but instead of being truth or dare, they chose partners like hugging each other. So two persons who get the battle's direction, the cape of the battle, they hug each other, and then one student just pops up and then, oh, sorry, this is probability. So, oh yeah, so how likely it is for you to hug this other friend? So that's quite personal to me, because like the students can find mathematics in so many unpredictable events because of it. So this is something that I'm so grateful teaching math, because like sometimes people are scared of math because like they don't really see math as a meaningful topic or something that close to their heart. But like the confusing, the dizziness, the frustration, the anxiety, and so on. But when they try to shift their mindset, they try to see the beauty of math. They appreciate the power that math can hold. The students can deliberately and slowly will change their attitude towards math. So one thing, perhaps you can just let them free to think of or to reflect on the learning process. But at the very end, if they're still unsure about it, if they're still not aware of the math per se, then you can try to just give them a clue or a hint that, okay, so that's the math part. So now you can see that you cannot really escape from math, but you just need to embrace math in your life. So that's my take on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I will give no more time to Winnie to respond to Awal's answer, because we are limited by time and we have more students now raise their hand. Yeah, please go quickly and we will probably, yeah, perhaps we can finish this session not longer than 4 p.m. here. Okay, please, Rahma.
Yeah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, Mr. Awal. Nice to meet you here. My voice is clear. Is it clear?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Awal, I just want to ask about, as we know, there is statement or perspective in our society that mathematics is difficult things, especially for students, right? So how, as we are teacher, make sure our students that can grow a sense of caring independently and carrying out to the environment or other aspect of our life without any peer encouragement from the teacher. I mean, by itself, right? Because as we know that there are many perspectives in our society that mathematics is difficult thing. So how to make sure our students can make a sense and carry out in their environment with mathematics material. Just it. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Thank you so much, Rahma, for your question. That's something that I'm also still working in progress, like how to make the students shift their mindset or their attitude towards math or belief about math. There are many ways actually to do so. So one of the ways that we can use as a teacher is try to make mathematics is not as hard enough, because it's different from hard and challenging. You can challenge yourself, you can challenge your students, but you don't need to make it so hard for them to do so. So so the way you can do that, the way you can try to make the students feel less stressed about math is like, first thing first, you can do many kind of fun activities in math. You can do some kind of gamification, as I shown before, about the fish species to find out the coordinate points. Or in higher level, you can also try to make the math problem as personal as possible to them. Because like when you talk about personal stories in math, then I empirically, and like many research also found that this is something that makes students can be more engaged in the classroom. So when we relate the math topics in our real life situations, then they can at least think of the usefulness of math, the use of math in their daily life, and they will be aware of the purpose or the beauty of math itself. That's from the content material. So there are many ways we can try as a teacher to make the content of math as fun as possible. You can find in many resources. I think you can find a lot of in Google, like how to make mathematical content delivery more fun. You can, especially now in online class, we can have like some sort of quiz, which apparently students love a lot. Like we can use quizzes, Kahoot, Nearpod, etc., for fun activities in teaching math. And another one, it also comes to the teachers. So the teacher is when I talk about teacher, it's not only about the content knowledge of the teacher, but also the pedagogical knowledge of the teacher, like how they deliver the lesson and how they make the classroom as a judgment-free environment. It's like what I've been found as well, like many of my friends, I talk to them, why do you hate math so much? It's not only because of math, it's a very difficult project or a topic, but it's also because of, oh, my math teacher was so killer, I'm so afraid of them, so I'm kind of demotivated during the lessons. So one thing that we also need to be aware of, when you became a teacher, you don't need to be a clown in the classroom, but make sure that you make the classroom as lively, as fun, as to the very least as judgment free. Because like yeah, some teachers kind of judge the student. Ah, masa gitu aja nggak bisa. Things like that. It hurts the student a lot. It hurts the student a lot. So please be more caring toward the students. Please be more how do I say? Be more respectful to the students. It's not only the students respect you, but you also need to respect the students as a teacher. And yeah, the last thing I could say is like, people have their own abilities. We couldn't expect all the students master at math. Yeah, they need to do the basic math, but we don't need to like force like the complicated math, the complicated tasks to all of them. And that's what personalized learning, which has been campaigning or advocating for this past few months or years. So we can try to personalize how we deliver the lessons, or how we task the students based on their own needs and based on their own interests. So it's not one size fits all, but it's more personalized. So we need to be more aware of the students' needs, whether they need to be challenged over and over again, or okay, just do the bare minimum.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Awal and also Rahma. I will not also give Rahma the opportunity or the chance to give response to Awal's answer, because now we have 8 students raising their hand, and I think to make it more efficient, would be okay if we like collect 3 by 3 questions before we let Awal to address the questions. Okay. So yeah.
I'll prepare my note first.
Yeah, and I will also help you make the note. Well, please, Sadaria, it is your turn.
Thank you for listening to me. Is my point is clear?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for your position that given to me, and thank you for the explanation for the material today. So I wanna ask about in your slide, especially create your own lesson, and there's any point that is learned about relevant social justice, but actually I don't get the point of this statement, because we know that mathematics generally learn about calculation, number, and anymore. So I want to ask, how do you apply social justice learning mathematics in your class? Because we know that in this class, status social is heterogeneous. I mean, in this class, test of social is different. I mean, it's not same. So what is the what kind of the what kind of the social justice maybe like this, sir?
Okay. So maybe the question of Sadaria was, how would it be possible in our math class in the context of differences to deal with the social justice issues or something? Is that the point of your question, Sadaria? Like how can we how can we implement or how can we find the social, how would it be possible to raise a certain social justice issues in our math learning in the context of differences, you know?
Try to paraphrase the question. Or what I thought is like, Because like we kind of believe that mathematics is all about numbers or any topics like mathematical topics. So how can we try to elaborate the mathematical topics and the social issues? Is that your question, Sadaria?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay. And then, yeah, thank you, Sadaria. And then Fadlia.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much for the opportunity that has been given to me. My name is Fadlia Zahra and my friends call me Rara. Nice to meet you. And maybe langsung saja ya. My question is, often students are able to solve mathematical problems such as calculations. However, when solving mathematics into a problem such as the application of mathematics in everyday life, students sometimes find it difficult. What do you think? Do you have any tips for this? Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Fadlia. And one more question for this session. Nurul Alfia, please.
Sir, thank you for the opportunity that has given to me. I'm Nurul and my friend call me Pia. As you have been explained earlier about the concept of mathematics, well, actually in critical mathematics education, the role of teacher is also very important. So my question is, are there any tips so that teachers can make good critical thinking mathematics problems? Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Nurul Alfia. Now we give the time to we give the floor to Awal to address these three questions.
Okay. Right. Thank you so much for the enthusiasm. I'd like to start with yeah. How would it? Oh, I think I should just start from the tips because that's the initial stage when we want to apply and integrate the critical math education. So for the tips to teach in my critical mathematics education, obviously, we need to understand the social justice issues in the very first place. So look around you, read more, watch more, listen more. What's something wrong around you? What is something wrong around you? There must be something going wrong around you, and you can do about it. So, for example, like in Indonesia, let's say like the corruption issues. It's a generational issues about corruption, and we kind of could implement like how do we make students aware of the corruption issues in Indonesia, like the racial thing, you can also put that way, like what it would be if there is no corruption case of this. What would it be if there is no case corruption of, let's say, imported cattle, let's say, things like that, and then you can try to ask the students, like, with that amount of money, the teacher, the government can actually allocate the budget for what in your own neighbors, let's say, in your own village, let's say. Oh, we can build the road, we can build many public facilities, things like that. That's something that we can reflect on. So as I shown before, like the steps of the teach your own lesson. The first one is you need to specify what social justice issues that you want to focus on, and try to identify the mathematical lessons that you want to incorporate in it. So when you want to be more critical on it, it means you need to master, or you need to know about the issues itself. Because like this is something that can be dangerous as well, because like when we don't really know about the issues that we're talking about, then sometimes it can go wrong. The lesson maybe go waste, and the goal that we want to achieve couldn't be possible. So we need to know fully, comprehensively about the topic that we want to know about. And that's only a bit. Just read, just discuss, just listen, just watch the issues. There's nothing that we can do to be more empathetic to others. That's the only thing we can do. The next one, after we try to implement the social issues and the math, relating to the first question about how to combine social justice and math, just like the example that I shown before, we can actually apply any social justice issue. We just need to look deeper on it. We need to reflect, oh, what can we do in this? Oh, I will also share you some teacher and student resources on this. So perhaps aside from the examples that I showed before, you can also see another resources, but perhaps because it's still from Western world, so perhaps some part is still not too contextual in our own culture. But I challenge you to try to adopt the issue in our own context. There are many ways, like maybe how to use how to find the midpoint of the triangle, the food equally, so that people from like the rural areas, they can also secure the foods for them. So you can make the 3 dots. You can connect the 3 dots to make a triangle and then find the median part. And then you can see. You can also consider the places in the map, like, oh, this is the dense population located, things like that. So any kind of math, perhaps I don't think like all of the math topics can be put into a social justice issues. That's one thing, but you can try to find it in many resources that I will share it to you later. So perhaps even like the integral or calculus, but perhaps it's for the university students. You can use the computational or the computer science to also help you in integral and calculus in real life situations, like how to perhaps conserve the bee population, things like that. There are many ways we can apply that. So my advice will always go back to the first place. Just look around the social justice around you and then try to relate it into the math concept, because like we basically can integrate the two things. It's not a separate things, and this is a trend that has been going for years, like interdisciplinary discipline. So math is not a separate discipline from the others. It's not a detached subject, but we can integrate with other subjects, including the social justice issues. So I think I can give the resources at the end of the discussion. And for the other one, how to make the students understand the word problem more. Yeah, I also encountered this issue for students in my first year of teaching. They say that, oh no, word problem, it's too complicated. That's a misconception that has been going on for students, because like they only know about mathematical, there's numbers and mathematical language, but the thing about word problem is actually to make it more relate to our life. And it's only about how we understand the problem and how we can try to translate the word problem into a mathematical language, as they are being familiar with since the very first encounter of math. And if that's the case, because like it's already being like that since they were maybe primary years, so they don't really know they are confused about word problem. It's always, for me, my formula is always like, you need to understand the problem, you need to know what you know from the problem, you need to identify what is being questioned, and you need to relate what do you know and what is being questioned, and how it can be found in mathematical concept. So it's only something that I also learned since the in my schooling experience, in my academic experience, like how to relate the word problems. So yeah, of course, we need to understand the problem first, or at first, in the very beginning, including what is being known and what is being asked, and relate them together to find out the solution. So it's actually it's a typical question. It's a typical formula for many teachers as well, for many practitioners. But sometimes it's only because of the students itself. It's like they did not make it meaningful when they read the questions, or it's also kind of the teacher's part, because like they kind of separate the word problems and also the mathematical way of expression in the lesson. So it's much better if we kind of integrate into the same thing, so the students can see the relevance of the word problem in math.
Okay, and the first question. Which was about well, have you answered the first questions already, by the way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a question that's the answer that's a question I answer when I talk about, we can see a lot of interconnectedness of our real life issues and mind.
Yes. All right. Thank you. Dan. Well, I think because we still have 4 students to ask. Now we give a very quick time for the 4 of you, please, to just say your questions directly. We already ran out of time, actually. Please, Nanda. You start, Nanda, please.
Okay, thank you very much for your kind attention before, and nice to meet you, sir. So I want to ask you some question. No, just one question. Okay.
Alhamdulillah, just one question, Nanda.
Okay. We know learning outcomes are an accumulation of various factors that affect students. This influence can come from within the students themselves or internal factor, and can come from outside or external factors. Some kind like critical thinking skills, of course, emotional intelligence, and independent learning. So my question is, there an effect of critical thinking skills, emotional intelligence, and independent learning together on mathematic learning outcomes or project or practice results? That's it. Thank you, sir.
So it is on the effect of the emotional emotional and also critical thinking into the math understanding. Yeah, outcomes. Yeah, learning outcomes. All right. Thank you, Nanda. Now, Fitria.
Well, thank you, sir. And hello, Mr. I'm Fitria, and I have a question. I am interested to know that how we create a social justice question for the lessons, because just like before, we know that if we want to create our lessons in step 5, we create social justice question for the lessons.
Okay, thank you, Fitria. So how to create social justice questions for the lesson? All right, and then Masita.
Well, sir, hello, Mr. Awal. Nice to meet you in here.
Hello, Awal without
Actually,
Mr. Can you say it?
Actually, I have a question for Mr. Awal. So, what is the difference between use the example case study as you show it in your presentation with the task of such as like a pizza or hot task? As we know, that is trend and familiar in student environment. I think just it. Thank you.
Okay, so the difference between the PISA tags and also the examples that Awal gave just now. Yeah. Okay, last question from Ayu. Alvina, please. Quickly, Ayu.
Well, sir, thank you for opportunity given to me. My name is Ayu Alvina Pratiwi Amar. You can call me Navin, and nice to have you here, Mr. Awal. And so actually, my question is basic, but I think there is important to know it. And then my question is how to increase or develop students' critical thinking skills. For example, in everyday life, how to increase or develop students' sensitivity to the surrounding environment. Just it. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much for Ayu, Masita, and Nur Fitri, and also Nanda. So we have 4 questions now to address. Awal, ready?
I'm kind of lost in the first question. What is it again about?
The first question is on the effect of emotional quotient and also critical thinking to the mathematics learning outcomes. Is there any relations to between those issues? Yeah, I think that was the first question.
Yeah, so this one is actually most of the questions is not really related to the topic today, but that's okay. For the first one is about the effect of the internal factors, as you said, about the critical thinking skills, emotional question, and also the okay. Yeah, so it's basically from the internal factors. So I didn't have the solid argument on that, but I've read somewhere that there is an intricate or like a complex relationship between those kind of factors to the learning outcome. So it's not an absolute factors that goes in a linear relationship. So for some students, it might be mostly could affect and could impact a better learning outcomes, but there is some outliers that it will not apply. So in my own study, for my dissertation, it's about the mental health and its relationship to the students' outcome in math. I found out that this is something that is not a direct relationship. Yes, it is true that when students are free from mental health issues or having a better mental health state, they tend to have a better mathematics learning outcome. It's true. However, it's not a direct relationship. It turns out that in between the mental health and also the learning outcome, there is something in between, which is the self-efficacy and also self-efficacy and positive belief, if I remember correctly, about math. So that's the two indicators that can affect the students to have a better learning attainment in math. So it's not because of they don't have the mental health, then they have a higher math score, but it's because they have a better self-efficacy because of the mental health state they are in. So it's not a direct relationship, but in general, yes, it is. But we don't necessarily say it as an absolute relationship. So we need to do the research by ourselves to investigate the relationship between those two. But yeah, for some scientists or some scholars, they do agree on it, but it doesn't apply to all cases. And that's actually what research about, right? We can make a generalization based on the sample that we have. So that's for the first question. For the second question about
to create
the
social justice question.
Okay, how to make a social justice question. So it goes back to the social justice issues that you have. So you need to determine the goal. Why do you need to choose these social justice issues? Let's say like the food distribution for the people in the rural areas. So let's say we use the triangle topics. So in the map, you draw a triangle from 3 points. And then you need to ask the students about the midpoint. Where is the midpoint of the triangles? And then after that, you can ask the question, because like you need to know whether the food is distributed fairly or equally to each other. So you can create a social justice question like, what do you think about the midpoint of the triangle? Is it a fair spot? Is it fair to locate the food distribution center in that spot? And then you can also make another survey questions like, can you look at the dense populated areas? Would they reach equally with the area that is not densely populated? What I mean is like the fair issues there. Is it fair if we put in the middle point, or we need to consider other factors like, there is a dense populated here, there's a dense populated there. The people who produce the food is here, so they shouldn't go too far to minimize the operational cost and so on and so forth. So when you want to create a social justice issue, that's again, you need to comprehend your issue comprehensively, holistically. So you just don't throw the question aimlessly, but you need to find the goal, or we need to make the students ensure that that's the fair or the just society looks like. So when we know about it, then we can create the survey questions that directs to our goals. So that's my tip. That's one of the examples to make survey questions. But yeah, of course, you need to read more on that. You need to read more on the social issues that you want to focus on, so that you know the big perspective of the issue that you want to focus on. And then the next one is about PISA. What's the difference between the example given from the case study and the PISA questions? I actually don't really. I read some PISA questions, but I don't really like focus on the PISA questions. Looks like. But as I could remember, please correct me if I'm wrong, Kamsmul, it's also related to real life context, right? It's also related to real life situation. So yeah, I could say that perhaps it's related to real life context, but it can be related to social justice, but it can also be not related to social justice. So it's related in the real life situations part, but I'm not sure whether it's also connected to or relevant to the social justice issues, and how we can embed it into the math problems. But one thing for sure, it's also about real life situations. And then for the last question about the critical thinking, how we can encourage people to use critical thinking in their life. And yeah, this is something that this is something why we have math in our school curriculum, because like Because like math train us to be a critical thinker. We need to do the systematical thinking. We need to do the steps by steps. Yeah, we need to know what is the issue, and then what do we know. We reflect on the understanding that we know, and then we need to solve the questions based on what we've been learning, and then we try to, or we make an attempt to solve the questions based on the understanding that we have. And that's why we need to remind our students, we need to encourage our students to also apply that in our real life. Because like yeah, this is something that still familiar and still relevant to us, because like we detach from our real life situations. We only do math because we learn math in school, but we need to make students realize, and we need to encourage students that it's only about math, it's about your real life later after school. Hence, you will at least not only use the math concepts, but you will use the mathematical flow chart or systematical thinking in math to also do your problem in your real life situation. So yeah, when the students when they make meaning, or they make sense of the value of learning math in school, then we believe that you can also apply critical thinking skills in your daily life. So that's something that we need to discuss more in our classroom, so that the students can really realize the use of math in our daily life.
Yeah.
So I think that's the 4 questions.
Yeah, thank you very much, Awal, for addressing these questions from my students. And yeah, of course, we learned a lot from your answers and your presentations as well. I think you promised us the resources as well. Yep. By the end of this session. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, there you go.
Wow, thank you. Now let me copy this first and also save the chat to make sure I will not lose this. Well, actually, seeing the chat box, we still have one question there addressed by another student who cannot unmute her microphone. Yeah, it is. Have you ever thought using curriculum as it is used in general school? And is there any challenge that you or difficulty that you found when teach using the IB curriculum? This is a quite general questions, I think, but maybe you can also address your point.
Okay, so in IB curriculum, yeah, previously I worked in some schools. For my community service KKN, I also teach in public school, which use the government curriculum. Also in Makassar, I taught in 2 private schools using Cambridge. And what makes IB curriculum is quite different from the others curriculum I was exposed to is about so basically in IB curriculum they have a few subjects. They have a few subjects which is not taught in other schools. Like we have service learning, or in Cikal we say Cikal aksi-aksi. It's like in IB concept, IB principles, they have the international localities at the same point. So we need to think critically, think broadly, but act globally, like UN.
Like FMI UN.
Yes, like FMI UN. So basically, in service learning, we think like open-mindedness, from different perspectives in many places around the world, but we need to also try to solve the issues around us. So that's kind of similar to KKN for the university students, but we make it into the primary schools. Also, there is a personal and social education. It's more of like emotional learning, social and emotional learning. I don't know if it's common in IB schools or it's only in Cikal, but perhaps it's from other IB schools as well. Because like this is one of the principles that the IB learners should have in their profile, like the thinkers, the caring, the empathy, and yeah, we learn about those kind of profiles in the personal and science education, personal and social education. That's from the subjects that we learn about. In the assessments, as I said before, we have the culminating project. So the culminating project is basically the culminating project that you should do when you want to move up into the different level of schooling. So for year 6 in primary school, year 9 in junior high school, year 12 in the year 12, you need to come up with a project that relates to you. There are a few transdisciplinary teams. This year in Cikal, we adopted Sharing the Planet, which is why we try to relate our projects with the SDGs, because it's about sharing the planet. But we also have like, who are we? It's about personal identity. So many students chooses their culminating project about mental health issues, so that they suffer from mental health issues. They also chose like making a math activity book that can help the students learn math easily because they love math so much. Or they can also make a kind of a game, like a sport game, because like they are aspiring football player, so they relate their own project based on their own needs and their own interests. So that's one thing that I also value the most about IB curriculum. Yes, that's it. So basically, in IB curriculum, our main principle is about being an inquirer. So most of our learning is conducted using inquiry-based approach. So we don't have textbook. We provide the materials to the students, and we discuss the materials together instead of just buying the textbook and then discuss the textbook itself.
Okay. Thank you very much, Awal, for the answer and also for the very enjoyable session. Anyway, do you still want to show something on your slide, or can I stop the screen?
Yeah, I can stop the sharing the screen.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you very much again, Awal, for the insights that you give us today. We, of course, learn a lot of things, new knowledge, even to me myself, and of course for the students as well. On, for example, on the critical mathematics educations, in how we perceive mathematics in a way that it is somehow there around us, and so we make our students more realize the existence of the mathematics and the use of mathematics, not only to solve the mathematics problems itself, but to solve issues in general. And also related to our topic today, in how to integrate values into mathematics learning, we can also learn how learning, especially the project-based learning activities that we provide or that we give to our students can help us at the same time, and the students at the same time also think of or integrate values, like to to raise their awareness of the social issues happening around them. And of course, many other things here. I have some pages of my notes here. Yeah, we also apologize, Awal, sorry for having this very not punctual. We plan to have it 60 to 90 minutes. In fact, it goes 3 hours. Yeah, we apologize for that. And of course, we highly appreciate you for the sharing and also the the knowledge you share to us, the insights you gave us for today. And before we end the session, I would like to address this small certificate, I would say, on behalf of the mathematics department. So we thank you a lot for this session, for the valuable knowledge and also experiences you shared to us related to this issue. All right. Okay. Before we end the session, maybe do you mind giving us like one final word or one final message maybe before we really end the session?
Okay, I need to prepare for this, but yeah, I would say that as a mathematics student or a person who are being familiar or being deep into mathematics discipline, let's just not think mathematics numbers or geometrical pattern, but let's think mathematics as a powerful tool to make meaning of our surrounding and to make a better place for the world. So yeah, that's it.
All right. Yeah, give applause for Awal. Yeah, thank you very much all for the very nice sharing session. And maybe if you all want to have like photo session with Awal, then you can turn your camera on so we can take some screenshots. Okay, let me just count 1, 2, 3. Wait for the second slide. 1, 2. All right. Again, we thank you a lot, Awal, for this session, and we do apologize for the limitations of this meeting with you. Thank you.
Thank you semuanya.
Yeah, I hope to see you here back in Makassar.
Okay. Yeah, I'll let you know when I'm around. Bye bye.
Sure. Bye. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Now we already had our session with Awal and also